Welcome back to the channel, my name's Adam Smith, and today we continue with gameplay inside the showcase for Phantom Epoch. If you haven't checked out my game unboxing video or the how to set up video that got everything here to the table, I definitely recommend you check out those two videos. I'll put a link to them in the top right hand corner right now. And for those that have checked out the how to set up video, you've seen everything get to the table for this mission we're about to go on inside the campaign. It is a few missions into the campaign, so we're not starting with the first tutorial mission. We're actually jumping a little bit ahead, and our characters have already gone through a number of missions. And at this point, we are on the planet Orbos, and we're in a mission called Meeting with Divinity. Now, there is one correction that I mentioned in the pinned comment and video description of the how to set up video, and that is that the HP tracker bases for each of the enemies that come in should be of a different color. And that is all that's necessary for that correction from the how to set up video. Now let's dive into the introduction for this mission. You'll wake from a night's rest aboard the Phantom Epoch to a sight of a beautiful blue and green planet of grasslands and vast oceans filling the viewport. Orbos, the ancestral home of the humans, the voice says. It is the most hospitable of the galaxy's inhabited planets. When the Masters were still here to provide travel between the worlds, both humans and others who came to call Orbos home claimed it was also the most civilized. Most of the planet is ruled by one known by his people as Divine Emperor. He has ruled for hundreds of years or more, longer than any of his subjects have been alive. Is it just one man or a succession? Does he know what happened to the Masters? You must seek an audience with him. This, you note, is the first time the voice has indicated that it doesn't know what happened to its Masters. Our objective is to meet with the Divine Emperor, and it says you seek an audience with the Divine Emperor of Orbos. The man has supposedly ruled for centuries. He may have information about what happened to the Vanished, and how to defend against whatever threat is looming. The mission start now tells us that you are transported to the surface of Orbos, where you approach a daunting castle in the middle of the largest city on the planet. Not really believing it will work, you ask for an audience with the Emperor and are surprised when you are ushered in rather than turned away. You are taken to a room in the rear of the castle and told to wait there. There, you are left standing uncomfortably until the watchful eyes of the Emperor's guard. Doubts start to fill your mind. It was too easy to get in, and this Austri room does not look like a waiting room for guests. The guards begin to fidget nervously and tension begins to fill the room. We are told there's some special rules for this mission right off the start. It says the human sentries, which we have two of in the room with us, do not perform any actions during round number 1, but they can be attacked. We also do not draw any action cards for them at the start of the round. The door that they're right in front of is considered locked. Presumably one of the sentries holds the key. So I've read the introduction for the mission. We know the objective is to meet with the Divine Emperor. We've read the mission start. We know the special rules pertain to the human sentries and the locked door. There is no mission event. There is no event adversary. And it tells us right now to stop reading until round 1 is completed. Now let's quickly talk about win and loss conditions. If the characters fail to complete a mission objective that is not optional, or if all characters have been defeated, the mission is considered a failure. And upon failure, any remaining characters are evacuated back to the Phantom Epoch for recovery. The rewards from any campaign orbs that are activated or campaign treasures that were retrieved before the mission failure are still kept, and failed missions can be attempted any number of times. Now, a successful mission concludes at the end of the round in which the final mission objective is met. This means any characters or adversaries who have not yet taken a turn in the round will take their final turns before the end of the round or the mission. So it potentially gives adversaries one last opportunity to defeat the characters and gives characters a last opportunity to retrieve and activate orbs, treasure, and Nova cells. Now, for an individual character that is defeated as part of a mission, here is a breakdown as to what happens and the steps and effects that occur. It's now time to dive into round number 1, and on the opposite side of that same reference card, you'll find the round flow with the page reference and 1 through 9 major high-level steps here of gameplay, and the player turn broken down below as well. We'll get into all of this, remembering again the special rules for this mission that tell us that these adversaries will not be doing anything in round number 1. We now roll the decision die, and the result of the decision die will be 4 decisions going forward throughout the round. The D8 decision die has 4 different colors that can come up. We got red in this case. That's the first thing to take note of. Second is going to be the primary direction, which is the large letter, which is W in this case, standing for west. And then the secondary thing you want to pay attention to direction-wise is a smaller letter beside it, which is north in this case. Later on, I'll discuss a little bit more about what the decision die does and its impact during gameplay, but for now, let's move to the next step, which is to draw an event card coming from the top of this deck. As you'll remember from the How to Set Up video, there are 5 event cards on top here that run from rounds 1 through 5. This is the first one. There'll be 4 more of these, and then it'll get into cards that'll show 6+ for rounds 6 and beyond. And as you can see, all things are quiet. There's nothing to worry about right now. It is now time to start strategizing as to what we want to try and accomplish on our turn. We have 2 characters here, so I'm playing multi-handed solo, and I can choose to rest, which means I'm not going to be using any cards, and I'm going to be going with a very low initiative, or I'm going to be going ahead and actually taking action cards from my character's hands and trying to build out what I'd like to do. Now, each of the cards that I'll show you in a moment for each of the characters have numbers on them that will add in and total up to their initiative value. Now in the future, you'll see how a rest action actually works, and that's going to set my initiative value to a 1, and a number of other things will happen. We'll talk more about it when I actually take a rest action in the future. For now, let's take a look at the cards here for the healer and try to strategize as to what we want to accomplish. Now before I show you all 10 action points in the healer's hand, I do want to mention the fact there's an AP value on the card, which is very important to note. It's 11, which means when we're selecting cards to use as part of this round, the values on them cannot go over the AP value. So as an example, you'll see Self-Medicate, it has a value of 2 here, so we can absolutely play just a single card if we want to. We could play another card that's even valued 9. That would get us all the way up to 11. Now there isn't a 9 that I have in my hand, but that's just an example. But if there was one that was valued at 10, we would not be able to play that, as that would put us over our AP level of 11. Now it is worth mentioning, let's say we go ahead and put a number of cards in that total up to our AP value of 11, and we're happy with those cards. There's also an initiative +1 here happening for the reinforced breastplate that's just specific to her because of the equipment she has. That is going to add to the initiative value. It is not going to impact in any way what's going on with the selection of cards. So now we take a look at our healer's cards, and we can check out all of the 10 cards the healer has available, and you'll see various different amounts, which is going to be interesting because strategy-wise, having 10 cards out of the gate and all these potential things you can do, you're going to have to decide what to do and when. And when you're taking a turn, you can do as little as you want or as much as you want, again, so long as you're not going over the maximum of the AP value for your character. So once you decide what cards that you want to use and you ensure that you're inside of your AP value, then at that point, the value of those cards, the total of them, will turn into your initiative value, which will then get a +1 in her case on top of it. I'm going to select these character action cards, which total up to 11. Again, you do not have to go up to your AP maximum when selecting these cards. You can go below it if you wish. Now here are the 10 action cards for the rogue character. I'm going to select from these in just a moment, but want to mention the fact I'm thinking heavily about the fact that these enemies are not going to be doing anything to us during this round, so I want to make the most of trying to attack them right now. It's worth mentioning that every character has a different AP value, so my rogue here has an AP value of 9 I have to stay within. I'm going to select these 2 action cards, Sneak Attack and Into the Shadows, totaling 8. Now the next step of the round is to reveal your action cards. This would matter more if you're playing with other people around the game table. When playing solo and controlling multiple characters, your cards will be revealed at all times. The next step of the round is to go ahead and draw the adversary action cards, which are going to be a human species card and a sentry class card. But as per the special rules of the scenario in round number 1, neither of these are being drawn. We now determine initiative, and we know our initiative values based on the totals for each of the cards that we've placed out. So we have an initiative value here of 11, initiative value here of 8. So that means my rogue is going first, and then my healer, and the adversaries aren't going at all. We're starting things off with my rogue Grolic here. He's got 2 cards he could use, and it's worth mentioning you can not only use a card for what's written on it, but you can also choose not to take advantage of what's written on it, and instead take the value that's up here and use it for movement by discarding the card instead. Now, I don't need that much movement, plus I was smart enough, in this case, to go ahead and place this card in my hand, allowing me to move 2 and gain invisible. So that's what I'm going to do right now to get Grolic up close and personal with the human sentries. I've only used 1 of my 2 movement, but that's okay. That's all I'm going to choose to use, and also gaining invisibility. So I've got that token next to him as well. It's worth mentioning that I need a range of 1, so I need to be adjacent in order to make an attack based on what I currently have for this character. Now, once a card has been used, you go ahead and place it on the discard side of your dashboard, which would normally be on the left-hand side of the dashboard right here, but just for space purposes, I place these dashboards close by and placing my discard pile sideways below the dashboard instead. And you've also got a quick glance at the weapon for my character here, as well as the range for that weapon, and you'll also see if we happen to land a critical, we get to go ahead and deal additional damage. Let's go ahead and make an attack. I'm going to choose to attack the one on this side, as I'm going to have my healer come around and provide backup to hopefully be able to take it out if we get lucky with the way things work out. So we're going to do a sneak attack right now, and this says we're going to do an attack, and then the damage is going to be times by 2 if the attack is performed while invisible. And when a hero character makes an attack, you can choose to use the regular blue die here or the blitz die. There's differences in terms of the values. You have 2, 3, 3, and 4 across the top, and at the very bottom you have 4, 2, and there is a fumble symbol here as well as a crit symbol. Now the blitz die is going to give you more in terms of chances to get higher values and more crits, but it has an increased chance of fumbling, so there's a little bit of a risk reward factor going on there. Now in terms of the size for this one, you've got 3, 4, you've got 5 and a fumble, you've got crit, you've got a fumble, you've got another fumble, and you've got another crit. Let's go ahead with the regular blue die for this attack, and maybe we'll use the blitz die in a future roll. So the attack value was a 3. We take a look at the guard value on the human sentry, which is a 1, which will take 1 away from the 3, leaving 2. So 2 damage is being applied, but as it says here, damage will be times by 2, so our 2 turns into 4. And that's going to knock the red human sentry down to 6. Now, hypothetically, if we had gotten a crit on that roll, then the crit would provide us the ability to skirt right past any guard that the enemy has. In other words, the 3 attack value here with the crit would go straight through and be 3 damage, but it would be times by 2 from my card, so it would have been 6 damage. Pretty awesome, but we didn't get it. The other result you do not want to see is a fumble, because of course if you land the fumble, nothing happens, your attack is a complete miss. So in terms of the blue die versus the blitz die, you've got 1 crit and 1 fumble on this one. On this yellow blitz die, you've got 2 crits and 2 fumbles, and you also have a higher increment of values in terms of the numerical values on the die by 1 than everything else. Instead of 2, 3, 4, it's going to be 3, 4, 5. Now, as it states right on the condition token reference card, invisible says a figure with this condition cannot be targeted by any action performed by any figure other than itself. Invisible figures may move through enemies and vice versa. Remove invisible at the end of the figure's next full turn or upon performing an attack action. We just performed an attack action, and technically it's also going to be the end of our turn, so in either case, this token is removed. Now we're going to move on to our healer, who's going to move into position right here next to the red sentry. We'll do this by discarding this self-medicate card. Instead of using the heal 3 for self, we'll use it for 2 movement and only use 1 of that movement to get there. Now that we're right next to the enemy, let's go ahead and use Atomical Strike. This is going to be an attack +1, which means we'll do an attack roll as normal, choosing blue die or yellow die. We'll add 1 to the value, the attack value total, and it's got a Pierce 3 attached to it. In a similar way to how the critical will just completely discard all guard value, a Pierce 3 is going to specifically remove 3 from the guard value of the enemy. But in this case, this enemy only has 1, but it's going to remove it anyway. So let's go ahead and make the roll and see how we do. We'll use the blue die, as I want to try and avoid fumbling with the blitz die. A 4 is an absolutely solid result off the blue die. A +1 on top of it for the attack +1 makes it a 5, and that's going to be insanely close to taking it out with just 1 left. And last but not least, I'm going to use preventative measures. This says apply resilient as a condition and barrier to self or an adjacent ally. As it states right here in the condition token reference card, barrier says the next time the figure would receive damage, remove this condition instead. And the resilient, the next time the figure would receive a new detrimental condition, remove this condition instead. Detrimental conditions are all the ones in red. You can see a list of them right here. And there's also 1 here on the front. Out of the 2 characters, my Slink Healer has an HP value of 13, whereas my Grolic Rogue has an HP value of 17. So I think the healer's going to need the barrier as well as the resilience token to deal with any damage or detrimental conditions that could come through. All characters that had an initiative are now done their turns. We're moving on to the next step of the round, which is to discard adversary action cards. So if the adversaries had have drawn cards as they normally would, then they'd be discarding them right now. But again, not going to happen because in round number 1, they don't get any. We skip past that. We apply any end of round effects if there were any. We currently don't have any to deal with, so we're okay there. We also check now if the mission is complete, and if it's not, then we continue to another round. And that's exactly what we're going to do, starting a brand new one right now. However, as you remember, we were told to stop reading until round 1 is completed, and round 1 is now done, so we move to the special rules here. It states, starting from round 2, the sentries will begin performing actions as normal. The sentries hold the key to the door, and it cannot be opened until all sentries are defeated. Once the sentries are defeated, treat the door as a normal door that is opened when a character moves onto it. So we need to take down both the sentries, and it also states here if no sentry was attacked or inflicted with a condition that causes damage during round 1, you actually would go to an extra section right now and do some reading. But we did actually place some damage on one of the sentries, so we have satisfied that, so we will not be checking that out. But you might run into a situation where you attempt to attack, do some fumbling, miss a bunch of attacks, and then something maybe happens. At this point, we're going to do exactly what it says here to stop reading until the door has been opened. So now as we move into round number 2, you're going to see it in its entirety as adversaries are now going to be a part of the equation. We start by rolling the decision die to start things off. At this time, we just take note of what's on the die face so we can see yellow, then the primary direction is north and the secondary direction is west. Now let's draw an event for round number 2 and see what we get. The top card is Interrupted Rest. It says, any character that rests this round randomly discards 1 action card after resting. When you choose to rest, you normally get back all 10 of your cards, but Interrupted Rest is going to take one of those cards away randomly. So overall, it's not a bad time to get this card because we're pretty early into our hand of 10 cards, so we still have quite a bit left and don't need to rest at this moment. Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned 2 of the ways that you can use an action card. There's actually a third way, and it comes in beneficial for the healer very early on in this mission. And that's because as you go through the healer's 10 starting cards, you're going to notice there's only 3 of them that have the attack keyword on them. So you might be wondering, once you've run out of them, are you just constantly pushed into resting if you want to do more attacks with the healer? No, there is a third way to use your action card, and that is to use the card instead for a generic attack with no modification to it whatsoever in terms of a plus anything. It's basically a plus 0. So you can use a card for what is written on it, you can use a card to convert it to movement points instead, or you can use a card for a basic attack. I've got my cards locked in for both characters. I'm choosing to use just 2 cards for each character. This one here for the rogue is going to be a total of 8 for initiative. This one over here will be a 5. So the healer will be going earlier on, but I also have the breastplate adding a +1 to my initiative values. So this is actually going to be a 6 when we calculate it against the sentries. Now we're going to reveal the adversary cards for species and class. Now, it's a good idea to take a look through these cards to see what the enemy is going to be doing, because that might change your strategy in terms of how you use your cards. So we got an attack command here. It says the closest ally within range 5 that is able to attack an enemy performs an attack -1. If there's no ally within range 5 that is able to attack an enemy, convert this card to movement instead. So basically it'll use some movement to get closer. And then over here for red and yellow, it looks like they'll be doing attacks. So we really do want to get rid of these guys. So now we have to determine the initiative order against these human sentries. So we have 6 here. Again, 5 plus the 1 off of the reinforced breastplate is the same initiative value as the 2 human sentries. So when there's a tie between heroes and human sentries or adversaries, then the characters or the heroes get to go first. So my character will get to go first, and then these ones will. But you might be wondering, well, what happens when there's a tie between these two? Because, well, there is. Then you just take a look at your class card and you go from top to bottom color-wise to see which one will activate first. Red is on top, yellow is on the bottom, as you saw in the prior clip. So it'll be this one here on the left, this one here on the right, and then finally the rogue will go afterwards with an initiative of 8. Now, once you know the initiative order, you can also use tokens that come with the game specifically to track initiative orders. So if you want to remember easily who's coming up next, you can just place those tokens nearby. For the purposes of this gameplay, I won't be adding them in. I'll just be remembering them and moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead right now and use this card for an attack instead of using it for what's written on it or any move value. So let's go ahead and make the attack. The enemy has a guard of 1. It has an HP of 1. So in order to take this thing out, we need to see at least a 2. Definitely going to stick with the blue die for this. I don't want to risk a fumble. Let's see how we do. That's going to be a successful hit, and only 1 damage getting through, because 2 minus the 1 guard is 1 damage, and that's all we need to take it out. So that enemy has been removed, and Nova gets placed in its position. As Nova is currency in the game for not only purchasing things as you continue through the campaign, but also charging different attachments and gear that you have. I certainly want to pick that up. So we're going to go ahead right now, and we're going to choose to move onto this space, not just to pick it up, but mainly to get adjacent to the next enemy to help out in the future. It's worth mentioning, if you end your turn adjacent to Nova, you also take it as well, or if you're on top of it. I ended up only using one of the 2 movement. I picked up the Nova, and that's going to do it for the healer. Now, it is worth mentioning that some of the class cards for the enemies will pop up from time to time, and even some of the species cards with interesting round effects that might actually bump up the guard levels of the enemies in a given round. So you might be going to a round thinking you've got an easy kill with 1 HP, and then all of a sudden they have a guard value of 3, and you're going to need to hope to land a critical to get past that. Or hope to have a pierce effect handy, or potentially just enough attack value to get over the guard value. At this point in the initiative order, the adversary is going to go next. So as we activate the Human Sentry, you can see it has a range of 1. It wants to be adjacent to things, but the attack command here says the closest ally within range 5 that is able to attack an enemy performs an attack -1. That's not going to happen. And then it says if there is no ally within range 5 that is able to attack an enemy, convert this card to movement instead. It doesn't need to use the movement because it's already adjacent to us, so it's having to stay exactly where it is in range of making an attack. Nearest is the very first thing you check, and in this case, we're both equally near to the enemy. So now we go to the decision die to help us out, but the very first thing you check is color, and neither one of my characters have a yellow HP tracker, so we're skipping past that and going to the primary direction, and that's going to be north. Now, the direction, whether it's the primary direction or the secondary direction that you're using, is always related to the entirety of the map. So in other words, you've got a compass here. So essentially, whoever is the most north on the map is going to be the target, and that is going to be my rogue. So unfortunately, even though I have a barrier here that can help me with damage on the healer, it's going after the one character that doesn't have anything on it, so maybe I slipped up there and should have placed it instead on the adjacent rogue. Oh well, in this case, the enemy's going to attack me, and it's going to be using only a blue die. It never uses the blitz die. The final thing to mention just before we roll is you always want to look at the attack value that's actually listed right on the card itself. In this case, it says attack 1. You might think that means the number of dice you're rolling. It does not. It actually means how much you're going to be adding into the attack value off the die you roll. So if I happen to roll a 2, it's going to turn into a 3. If it's a 3, it turns into a 4. In other words, it'll make things a little tougher. All right, it's time to see how we do. Let's roll the dice and see what happens. We got ourselves, ooh, that's a rough roll. So that's going to be a 4 plus the 1 is 5. And my rogue has nothing guard-wise that will reduce that, so that's 5 damage coming through, dropping me from 17 to 12. So as you've seen, I've updated the dial, and it now points to a 2, and the bottom dial at white counts for a full 10, so that's 12. Now I'm going to go to the dashboard for the rogue because there's an effect right now that automatically happens. And that effect is right on the horned helmet. Because I have Nova here and it's charged up, it automatically is going to use this as a melee attack completing against me, and a fumble not being rolled means I get to use this right now, dealing 2 damage back to the attacker. Now, only attack value is going to have guard reduce it, so even though this thing has guard, 2 damage is going to be 2 damage in this case, so it's going to drop from 10 to 8. Now, if I want to charge that up and make use of that again in the future, I can do that if I choose to rest, and if I have some Nova spare, I can use it to charge it back up. That'll do it for the adversary. Now my rogue gets some revenge. Let's make a decent attack here. We're going to use Backstab for the rogue. It's going to be attack +1, but it's going to change right now to an attack +3 instead because we have another ally adjacent to the target, which is perfect setup. So we get attack +3. I could use a blue die, but I'm going to use the blitz die because I want to risk it and see if we can get a bigger attack, but there is an increased odds of fumbling, so hopefully that does not happen. So not the biggest attack overall, but that +3 that we get off of having the adjacent ally is going to be huge. So that's 3 + 3 for a total of 6 minus the 1 guard for this enemy, so 5 damage. That's going to do it for that card, and it is down to 3 health remaining. And now we're going to go in for the next attack, and this one is going to be an attack that's going to inflict bleeding so long as we actually get damage onto the enemy, and then the condition will go through. So we're going to go ahead and use a blue die for this one to be a little safer. Let's make the roll and see how we do. We got ourselves a 3, and it's going to be -1 guard, which will be 2. So 2 damage getting through on this one. It'll be inflicted with bleeding, which will, at the start of its next turn, throw 2 damage onto it and kill it. So strategically, before we end off this round and head into the next round, we need to think about the fact that we want this sentry to go first so that it will go ahead and bleed out and die, and we can get the key to be able to unlock the door to get out of here, because we cannot move through the door until we've taken out both of the sentries. So we want to use cards with initiative that's going to be high enough to happen later in the round. So the adversary cards can now be discarded, and we apply any end of round effects, but there are none to apply, and we check to see if the mission's been completed, and it has not, so we continue to the next round. Into round number 3 we go. Let's roll the direction die, see what we get for a result. We got ourselves a red primary direction west, secondary direction north. Now let's draw an event. We've been lucky so far with the event cards. Let's see how the next one fares. And it looks like something's happening. It has a mission event, but as I talked about earlier in the video, we're currently being told there is no mission event at this point in time. At the end of the day, I didn't really want to burn a lot of cards to up my initiative to go later in the round, so we're just going to take things easy, actually, and we're just going to have the healer go ahead with just this card committed for an initiative value of 4 plus the 1 off the reinforced breastplate, which will be 5, and then the rogue is going to rest, which will put it at initiative 1. Now let's find out what's coming off the top of the adversary decks. The species card says Stride is going to have an initiative value of 3 with a move 5, and the 3 initiative will tie into the yellow one, which is the only one remaining. It would have attacked and inflicted knockdown, but it's not going to because the bleeding condition is going to take it out when it goes. There are 2 conditions for a character resting. The first one is they can't rest if they don't have any discarded character action cards, and the second is characters can't rest 2 turns in a row. So what do you get when you do rest? Well, the character's initiative is going to be considered 1, so going very early in the round, but the character's not able to play any character action cards in their turn. The characters recover all their discarded character action cards back to their hand, and they can remove any detrimental conditions at the start of their turn prior to any effects taking place. For example, bleeding does not cause 2 damage on a rest turn. Then you can choose to equip or unequip attachments or equipment. You can recharge attachments or equipment by placing Nova Cells on them, as I mentioned earlier on. And you can also move Nova Cell tokens between equipment and attachment cards if you wish. It's important to note that equipped item cards are allowed to be played on rest turns, but they cannot be unequipped, and unequipped items cannot be equipped. So essentially, item equipping and unequipping can only take place between missions. In my case, my rest is pretty straightforward. I've just gathered all my action cards back. Between the remaining 2 individuals, we have a healer that has a 4 initiative plus the 1, that's technically 5, and then over here for the human sentry, 3 plus 4 is 7, so definitely the healer going next. The healer can see that the rogue definitely needs some healing and can heal at a range 1 for 5. When a character receives healing in the game, a bandage token is placed in one of the 2 positions in the bottom right-hand corner of the dashboard to signify healing has taken place, and if both of these are filled in, healing can't take place. The 5 heal was perfect as it brings our character right back to max health, which is 17. And that'll hopefully get us ready for whatever is behind the door as we head out. Now I want to provide even more clarity around the bandage token. So first off, a bandage token will only be placed in the slot on the dashboard of the individual being healed by a heal action. And that card I used from the healer was a heal action. Now let's say hypothetically that the rogue had 20 max HP and it has 17 right now. It's already got a bandage on it, and the healer does another heal action with another card in order to put 3 HP on my rogue. So another bandage token would be placed on, and now we'd be at max HP. Let's say the game continues onwards and I take 5 damage from an enemy. If I still have these 2 bandage tokens here, the healer will not be able to use a heal action to heal me up, but I could actually go ahead and use my health potion, as this effect is not considered a heal action, and this would allow me to bring myself back up. Now you might be wondering, well, how do you get rid of the bandage tokens to allow for heal actions in the future? Well, some of the characters, just like the healer here, has a crit option that when you land a crit, not only are you getting the ability to skirt past any kind of guard and place 3 damage straight on, plus whatever other extras you might have in terms of damage beyond that, but you also get to choose a critical. And on the healer, the critical ability says if the target is an adversary, remove 1 bandage from yourself or an ally. So this is a way that you could get bandages off yourself or an ally to allow for future healing. We'll talk more about criticals and the different results we can potentially trigger when we actually get one during gameplay at some point. At this point, both my characters have gone, and the only one left is the human sentry. And as it states right here on the card, detrimental condition, bleeding, figures with the condition take 2 damage at the start of every non-rest turn. So that's going to automatically kill off the final sentry with only 1 HP. And a Nova is going to drop in its place, and due to my understanding, if both my characters have already had their turns, the Nova is going to stay there until someone ends their turn adjacent or on that in the future. Now we're going to discard the adversary action cards and apply any end of round effects. That bleeding condition helped us avoid anything coming from the sentry, which was quite nice. Into the next round we go, and as we know from the special rules that were mentioned, once we take out both sentries, the door here is now able to be unlocked as we're able to find the key across the 2 sentry guards and get that door opened once we actually go ahead and step onto the door, which signifies opening the door. Then we will go ahead and read on in the mission above. Let's head into a brand new round. We'll roll a decision die and find out what it gives us. It's going to be north and east with a light blue color. Now this is interesting and could be beneficial for us at this point in time as we start to head towards the door. We have an adrenaline rush event. It says all characters have +1 max AP for the round. So my Slink healer is now going to have an AP of 12 and my Grolic rogue is going to have an AP of 10. I'm going to commit to my maximum AP for both characters across the cards here. So we got 3, 4, and 5. That is a total of 12 AP. Normally for the healer, it's 11. With the +1 adrenaline rush, will get us up to 12, which is great. And then over here for the rogue, it's normally 9. It's bumped up to 10 thanks to the event. So we've got 10 across the cards here. So we're going full maximum on the AP. As we move over to the initiative, we are not drawing the cards for the human sentry because there are currently none in play. So across the 2 individuals, we have this one with 12, but there is a +1 coming from the reinforced breastplate, so it's actually a 13, and this right here is a 10. So a 13 initiative and a 10 initiative, the rogue goes first. The rogue is going to use this card here for a movement of 4. We've used 2 of the 4 move. I still have 2 to go, but the second I land on the door, I've opened it and now read from the mission section of this mission. The door opens and the shock on the faces of the guards on the other side indicates that they were clearly expecting you to be dead and their fellow guards to be the ones emerging. They scramble to draw their weapons and prevent you from escaping. The main gate slams shut, locked into place mechanically. There must be a switch somewhere to open them again. The new objective going forward is to escape. Now the main gate that is locked up is this gate right here. You'll see a doorway across these spaces. We're now told to place human sentries and human archers in specific spaces on the game board. Our characters step into a room full of human sentries and human archers. The archers have an HP value of 6 and the human sentries are at 10. Now in this game, when new enemies appear, they're not going to activate immediately. They're going to be there for the given round that they appeared in, but they're not going to be drawing any cards at this point. That will occur in the next round. Now, if a new adversary comes out and uses the same species deck as one that's already in play, like the human sentry and the human archer are both human species, so they'll share that deck together, then the actual space for the archer will just be left blank. But when we draw cards like we would normally do for the adversaries, you're going to draw from that human deck for both of the adversaries. The deck will just remain where it is. Now we're told a special rule right now is that the sentry at C5, which is this one right here, carries the key to the door at D4, which is right here. The door cannot be opened until the sentry is defeated. And on the opposite side of the map, the sentry at W5 carries the key to the door at V4. So if we want to get through that door, we have to take out that sentry. We're also told in the mission information up top, there's a new mission event and a new event adversary as well. And at this point, we're told to stop reading any further in the mission information up top until we either open door D4 or open DV4. And again, the aim based on the narrative is to try to get this mechanical door open so we can get out of here. We need to find a lever or something we can activate inside this area to get us out of here. And that, my friends, is a perfect spot to end off part number 1 of Phantom Epoch in the mission Meeting with Divinity as we try to escape the castle on the planet Arbos. I really hope you're enjoying this play so far. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions. This hopefully should help you get the game off the shelf and to the table. And for those of you that are curious about how this thing flows and operates, hopefully this video, as well as the finale coming up in the near future, will give you all the information you need to help you make an informed decision on it. Now, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys on this one. And for those of you that are out there enjoying it, let me know how your campaigns are going. The community would love to talk more about this one. Be sure to join our Discord and Facebook group to have conversations about solo games. And don't forget, if you want to support the channel, you can become a YouTube member. And there's a number of new perks that have been added to that. You can find the join information right off the homepage on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, keep on rolling solo.